Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I just wanted to sit down and share with you a couple of things that I've been working on recently, both with sewing and knitting. I've had quite a few projects underway this winter, and while I do sometimes make videos sharing the entire process from start to finish of sewing a garment with you guys, sometimes things pile up. So yeah, I just wanted to share what I've been working on. If you're new here, my name's Rebecca. I love making videos about sewing and knitting a handmade wardrobe. So if that's of interest to you as well, please do consider hitting that subscribe button below. And I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into it. So the first project that I have completed recently that I don't think I've shared here yet was actually a pattern test. So if you're unfamiliar with pattern testing, often indie sewing pattern designers will put out calls for testers, and they typically choose a range of people that fit the different sizes of the pattern that they're hoping to release soon, and then they'll send those people the pattern, they'll sew it up, give a review on the instructions and the fit and everything like that. So it's kind of part of the process that I think a lot of indie designers go through before they release a sewing pattern. So I have been fortunate to test for a variety of designers. Like I said, they typically put out calls for testers on places like Instagram, and then you can go put in your experience level and your measurements, things like that. And anyway, tangent aside, this was a pattern that I tested for the Modern Sewing Company, and I believe it is currently out, if not on the day of this video's release, very shortly before or after, so I will be sure to link that pattern in the description below. And it is for a lined waistcoat. So this is the Darcy waistcoat, and I have made my version in a wool coating. So let me go ahead and grab that. Okay, so I will try to hold it up, but of course I will also insert some photos. But it is a fully lined wool waistcoat. So I recently sewed the Vicky Sews Bernard coat, and I had some wool left over from that. So that is what I used for the outer shell of the waistcoat. And then I lined it with another fabric that I had left in my stash, and it's a black linen viscose blend. So not a typical lining fabric, but I felt that the blacks went well together, and because the linen has some viscose in it, it is really easy to slide on and off. Also, it's a vest, so you're not really worried about sleeves getting bunched up or anything. I used these vintage buttons from my mom's stash that she gave me, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. There's little patch pockets on the front. Really pleased with it. Honestly, I've tried to make a few different waistcoat patterns in the past, and I really like this one. I like that it's fully lined, and there are a few different options for closures. You can do buttons, as I have, or there's a version with ties, there's a version with little snaps. So if you'd prefer to do snap fastenings, depending on the fabric that you're working with, I think snaps would look really cool with denim, for instance. And maybe if you made a lighter weight, like linen version for the summer, maybe the ties would be appropriate. So I think it's a really versatile pattern. And also because it's fully lined, I think that it would work really well as a reversible pattern, because you could choose a fabric for the lining that also worked well as another option for the outer, and a facing, that matched. So I think it's a really great pattern. Sizing wise, I did decide to go up one. So I believe the size chart put me at a UK 10, and I made the UK 12. And I did that for two reasons. One, because the fabric I used is quite thick. It's a heavy wool jacketing fabric. Also, because I was making a wool version, I wanted to be able to wear it over chunkier sweaters in the wintertime, and there's definitely enough room to do so. I think that this is a really fun project. The attention to detail of the Modern Sewing Company patterns is always really great, and the instructions are solid, so I really love this one. I do have plans to make another version, if not more than one, in the future. And yeah, really pleased with it. It feels really elevated, feels really high quality. not to toot my own horn or whatever, but because of the instructions and the clean finishings, it feels like a really professionally done piece. So really, really proud of this one. Again, this is the Darcy Waistcoat by the Modern Sewing Company. So after I finished sewing the Darcy waistcoat, I jumped into a project that I've been kind of planning for a little while, and that is to make multiple button-up shirts for my partner. He recently got a new job, and it's like a business casual dress code, so I've been making him some button-ups, and as well as pants. I've made him a few pants, but I'm going to share the button-ups with you today. So unintentionally, another Modern Sewing Company pattern. I'm using their Unisex Shirt, and I have tried a few different shirt patterns for him, and typically they're too short, they're not long enough in the arms, they're not broad enough in the shoulders, etc. So I'm actually making the largest size of the size range, and then I've added an inch of length to the body for these shirts, and that's worked really, really well. I'm glad that I finally found a shirt pattern that I can just kind of use as a go-to when I make him shirts, because yeah, it's been really difficult to find one that fit well, and this does. So if you have a tall person in your life, maybe try the unisex shirt pattern. So the first one that I made is this gray poplin version. So again, I'll have to put some pictures in because I don't have a super wide angle lens, but it's a cotton poplin in this lovely kind of stone gray color. All of these fabrics are from Fashion Fabrics Club, by the way, just kind of coincidentally. All of the fabrics that I have to share with you today are from Fashion Fabrics Club, and their cotton poplin is really affordable. It does have a small percentage of spandex in it, I think maybe 2%, so it feels crisp and silky and nice for shirting, but it also has a little bit of flexibility to it, which is nice. So I made the first version is the long sleeve gray version. As I said, no modifications to the pattern other than lengthening the body by 1 inch. I really, really like this pattern because all of the seams but one are fully enclosed. I really, really enjoy the elevated look of a fully enclosed seam. So the unisex shirt uses run and fell seams, so it's a little bit different than a flat fell seam or a French seam, but it does result in a really clean, fully enclosed finished edge. So let me see if I can show you up close, maybe one of those. Okay, so here we go. This is the bottom of the shirt. It's a little bit wrinkled because it has been worn recently. So this is the bottom hem, and you can see the side seam is fully enclosed on the outside as well as on the inside. Hopefully that's visible to you. So that's the inside of the shirt and then the outside. And the way that that is achieved is you basically lay down the shirt on your table, and you'll have one edge, I believe it's the front because it's folded towards the back, so you'll have the front lying a little bit further. Typically they would be together. You would sew it like this with a little bit of excess and then ultimately fold that to enclose the seam. I hope that makes sense. Maybe I can find a picture or something to show you, but I really like the run and fell seam. It's fairly easy to work around when you're doing the sleeves and the side seams and things like that. So because this pattern utilizes those run and fell seams throughout, everything is fully enclosed with the exception of the armhole. So the pattern instructions tell you to insert the sleeve and then to serge that armhole seam. And I did do that with the gray version. But with the next version, I'm actually planning to bind that seam just so that everything on the inside is fully finished. So for the second version, same fabric, different color, I'm just making a classic white. So as you can see, I don't have the sleeves on this one yet, but I've got the collar, and I show the back. Yeah. So for this white version, I'm actually going to make it short sleeved. So I thought it would be nice to have a short sleeve button up that you could layer like under a vest or something like that for when it's a little bit warmer. And I'm planning on, after inserting the sleeves, just making some binding out of the self fabric that I have left over and binding that raw edge instead of serging it. I think particularly because this white is a little bit transparent. I don't want that serged stitching to be visible at all, and I think it would look a lot cleaner if it was a fully enclosed seam on the sleeves as well. I think you can see here it's a little bit transparent, so you can see where the seam of the back yoke is, for instance, and I just want it to look really clean. So I've got the gray long sleeve button up complete. The white will be a short sleeve, and all that I have left to do on that is to insert those sleeves and hem it, and then of course do all of the buttonholes and buttons, but that one's almost done. And then I have a third fabric to make the same shirt. I think this one will also be a long sleeve. And this is another poplin, but it has a little bit of texture and pattern to it. It's quite subtle. I'll hold it up here. I think you could see the pattern. From a distance, the pattern isn't super obvious, which I like. I don't think I'll have to worry too much about like pattern matching, which is nice. But yeah, this is also a cotton poplin, but I think it may be 100% cotton, whereas the other ones have that small percentage of stretch. So again, another fabric from Fashion Fabrics. These were all really affordable. I think something like $6 a yard or in that range, really affordable for cotton poplin. And I'm really pleased with it. I really like the crispiness and the drape, and it does press well. So yeah, I really like their poplins. I've been making a lot of shirts. I also, with the same fabric in like a punchy royal blue color, I just made myself a pair of pants. And I did make a video of me making those pants, so I can link my poplin pant video below if you missed that one. But yeah, I made an order of poplins for spring, and I have, as I said, more shirt making to do. I'm slowly kind of building up my partner's side of the wardrobe with handmade garments, and that's really fun. So next up, I have a knitting project to share with you. I've been working on this one for quite a while, and I don't know that I've shared it yet. So I have been knitting a sweater. It is the Stick Season sweater by Creabea Knits, or Rebecca Clow, I believe is her name. I am knitting my version in Juniper Moon Patagonia Organic Merino. This is actually a yarn that was recommended to me in the comments of my affordable 100% wool yarns video, and it is quite affordable. It was, I think, about, retail price is $15 a skein, and when I purchased it, it was on sale for like 12 or 13, and I only needed 3 of them, I believe, for the sweater, so I ordered 3. I'll show you my progress so far. Okay, so here we go. So you can see I love this kind of Merlot wine color. So I've got the textured yoke section complete. This is the front. And then here's the back. You can see this really interesting ribbing detail that continues down to the armhole. And then that ribbing detail at the back yoke continues down to the armhole and then all the way down to the bottom ribbing, which is really cool. That's actually what I'm working on now, is the ribbing at the bottom. So you can see, I think you can see that. It's kind of a cool detail. And obviously I've done the collar. So it's really hard to show things at this close angle. There we go. Maybe that's better. Okay. You can see that. Da-da-da. So yeah, and here's a close-up of the yarn. So that's the start of my Stick Season sweater. As I said, I'm almost done with the body. I'm just working on the ribbing at this point at the bottom, and then I'll go ahead and pick up for sleeves. I believe I went down 1 needle size to accommodate for the yarn in order to have a gauge that I enjoyed. I typically have to go down one needle size, so I suppose that would mean that I knit a little bit more loosely, or that I just typically am not choosing yarn correctly, I don't know. But I went down one needle size, and because of that I went up one on the size chart. And I did try it on, and I'm glad that I did that. I think it's meant to be like a close fit, a more closer fit. It's not super oversized as far as the intended design is or goes. I typically wear my knitwear quite oversized, and so while I know this is going to be a slimmer fit, I didn't want it to be like really closely fitted. So yeah, went up one size. I believe I'm making the 3rd size, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I will say that the texture at the top, it looks a little bit more complicated than it is. It's made just using like alternating knit and purl stitches, and I think it's really approachable for someone that maybe a beginner knitter but enjoys the look of textured knits and the fact that you only do it at the yoke on the front and back. I think this is a really approachable knit for a beginner. I've also seen some really beautiful versions on Instagram where people have made this sweater and just not included the texture pattern. So keeping the folded collar and the stitch count the same and everything, and also keeping that interesting ribbing detail and the double knit that goes on the underarm all the way down to the hem, but excluding the texture. And I think that that's really cool too. And that would make like a really solid basic knit if you were looking to have a less textured piece. I really love this color. I like the cooler toned reds. I think work well in with my coloring and with the other items in my wardrobe. So I'm really enjoying working with the yarn. Like I said, it's my first time using the Juniper Moon Patagonia Organic Merino, and I really like it. And it's available in a lot of colors too, so if you're looking for an affordable 100% wool yarn to knit something for yourself, I think this one is definitely worth giving a try. I purchased mine through Michigan Fine Yarns, which is just a website that I found online that carried the yarn that I wanted. As I said, when I bought it, it was a little bit discounted, but I think the retail price is $15 per skein, and I ordered 3 for this sweater. So really excited about this one. I have some new fabric and yarn that I want to share with you guys in a separate video soon. And when I share kind of my fabric and yarn haul, I want to share with you all of my other plans for what I'm going to be diving into soon, both sewing and knitting wise. So this is what I'm working on now. I am very much enjoying kind of the methodical like process of batch sewing the button-up shirts, and I think I'm actually going to throw in another one for myself too when I'm done with those 3 for him, using the same pattern. And I really like when you find a pattern that fits really well and you make it enough that you kind of memorize the instructions, so you don't have to reference them while you're sewing. You can just put on music and not wonder like, what do I do next? How do I do that? I've made this pattern probably half a dozen times at this point, and I think I've got the instructions like locked in pretty well, so it's a lot of fun to have that level of familiarity with a sewing pattern. I really enjoy that, and I really enjoy making the same pattern over and over again because it helps you really pay attention to small details and helps you to elevate the finish. If you learn the pattern to a point where you're not questioning what to do next, I think it really allows you to focus on the quality of finish, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are some of the projects that I've been working on recently. As I said, I do hope to have a fabric and yarn bit of a haul and share some plans for what I'm going to jump into next with you guys really soon. Waiting on a couple more things to come in, and then I want to share everything all at once. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was enjoyable, and if you made it to the end of the video, please do consider hitting that subscribe button below, and I will chat with you guys in the next one very soon. Bye.